In the quaint town of Willow Creek lived a young woman named Alara, known for her infectious laughter and bright smile. Yet beneath this cheerful facade, Alara harbored a secret fear of being truly seen, believing vulnerability was a weakness. The fear clung to her like a shadow, whispering doubts and urging her to retreat into conformity. One warm spring afternoon, Alara sought solace by the old willow tree when a gentle voice interrupted her thoughts. Startled, she looked up to see a kind-faced old woman named Maeve.
My dear, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of courage, the cradle of authenticity.
Maeve shared stories of her own life, tales of triumphs and failures, of moments when she had dared to be vulnerable and emerged stronger. Alara listened, captivated, as Maeve's words resonated deep within her. That evening, as Alara walked home, she felt a glimmer of hope ignite within her. The encounter with Maeve had planted a seed, whispering of a life lived with an open heart. Days turned into weeks, and Alara wrestled with Maeve's words. At the annual masquerade ball, Alara's fear of vulnerability manifested in its most formidable form. The grand ballroom, aglow with candlelight and swirling with masked figures, should have been a dream for a girl who loved stories. Yet, Alara felt a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach, the anonymity of the masks amplifying her insecurities. She longed to shed the mask and engage in genuine conversations, but the fear held her captive. As the night wore on, Alara retreated further into herself, her initial excitement replaced by a gnawing loneliness. One evening, as Alara strolled through the town square, she noticed a group of her friends engaged in an animated conversation. She desperately wanted to join in, but the fear of rejection held her back. So she stood there, hidden in plain sight, an observer on the periphery of their joy. That night, Alara lay awake, realizing her fear of vulnerability was creating a chasm between her and the people she cared about most.
A few days later, I found myself sharing a pot of chamomile tea with my grandmother.
As Alara recounted her struggles, her grandmother listened with unwavering attention.
Alara, true strength lies not in hiding our vulnerabilities, but in having the courage to show them.
That night, as Alara gazed out her bedroom window, she felt a crack in her carefully constructed facade, letting in a sliver of light. Driven by a newfound desire for change, Alara sought out Maeve. Maeve handed her a worn, leather-bound journal.
This is a book of whispers. Pour out your heart, your fears, your dreams.
Alara hesitantly opened the journal, feeling a quiet strength in Maeve's gaze that gave her the courage to try. Day after day, Alara returned to the oak tree, the book of whispers her constant companion. She wrote about her fear of judgment, her longing for connection, and the shame she felt about her perceived imperfections. With each word, Alara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The act of putting her vulnerabilities into words made them feel less daunting. For the first time, she saw herself with newfound clarity and compassion. As she closed the Book of Whispers, Alara knew she couldn't keep its contents to herself any longer. She needed to share her story, to let someone into the hidden corners of her heart. With a deep breath, she sought out her closest friend, Lyra.
Lyra, there's something I need to tell you.
Lyra listened intently as Alara shared her deepest fears and insecurities. To Alara's surprise, Lyra responded with empathy and understanding, sharing her own struggles with vulnerability.
Alara, I understand more than you know. It's okay to feel this way.
Emboldened by this experience, Alara began to open up to others, realizing that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength to be celebrated. One crisp autumn afternoon, Alara noticed a flyer for a pottery class led by a renowned local artist named Silas. Intrigued, Alara felt a familiar tug of fear, but a stronger yearning for self-expression urged her forward.
Maybe this is what I need.
The following week, Alara found herself in Silas's cozy studio, the air thick with the scent of clay. As Silas demonstrated the basics, Alara felt a surge of both excitement and apprehension. The malleable clay represented a blank canvas, a chance to create something beautiful, but also held the potential for mistakes. Days turned into weeks, and Alara found herself increasingly drawn to the pottery studio. Yet her initial excitement was tempered by frustration as her creations often cracked or crumbled.
Why can't I get this right?
One evening, after a particularly disheartening attempt, Alara was ready to give up. Sensing her distress, Silas approached.
It's all right, Ilara. Every potter starts with imperfect creations. It's in those imperfections that the true beauty lies.
Silas's words struck a chord deep within Alara. She decided to repair the broken bowl, not by hiding its flaws, but by highlighting them. She carefully pieced together the broken shards, filling the cracks with gold dust. The repaired bowl, once a symbol of her perceived failures, now held a place of honor in her home. It was a testament to her journey of self-discovery, a tangible representation of the power of vulnerability. Months passed, and Alara blossomed, her laughter echoing with genuine joy. The fear of vulnerability, though still a whisper, no longer held her captive. She embraced challenges with open arms, her heart brimming with quiet strength. Yet, life threw a curveball. Her beloved grandmother had fallen ill. The news struck Alara like a physical blow, a storm of fear and helplessness raging within her. The old fears threatened to resurface, whispering doubts. But this time, the strength cultivated through vulnerability whispered a different tune, urging her to face the storm head-on. A leap of faith. Alara booked a passage on the first ship sailing to her grandmother's distant island home. The journey was long and fraught with uncertainty, mirroring the turmoil within her own heart. As the ship cut through the waves, she clung to the memory of her grandmother's words. Courage, my dear, is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. Upon reaching her grandmother's bedside, Alara was met with a wave of emotions. Relief at seeing her grandmother, though frail, still clinging to life, and a heart-wrenching sadness at the visible toll the illness had taken. Yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, Alara felt a deep sense of gratitude for the bond they shared, a bond forged in love, laughter, and the courage to be vulnerable with one another. In the quiet intimacy of her grandmother's chamber, Alara laid bare her fears, her hopes, and her unwavering love. She spoke of the lessons she had learned, the strength she had discovered through embracing her vulnerability, and how those lessons had guided her through the storm within her own heart.
Alara, you have blossomed into a woman of remarkable strength and compassion. Remember, my dear, vulnerability is not a weakness, but the wellspring of our greatest strengths: love, empathy, and connection. Embrace it, and you will move mountains.
Her grandmother, though weak, listened with a soft smile gracing her lips, her eyes sparkling with pride. In that moment of shared vulnerability, Alara understood. Her journey wasn't about eradicating fear or achieving some unattainable ideal of perfection. It was about showing up fully and authentically, even in the face of fear, loss, and uncertainty. It was in those raw, vulnerable moments that her true strength was revealed, not just to the world, but to herself. The strength to love fiercely, to grieve openly, to face life's challenges with an open heart and a courageous spirit. And that, she realized, was a strength more powerful than any fear. Alara stood on the shores of her grandmother's island, the salty breeze whispering through her hair, carrying the scent of the sea and the promise of new beginnings. As she watched the sun rise over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, she realized that her journey of self-discovery had mirrored the dawn. She had begun in the shadowy depths of fear and self-doubt, her true self hidden from the world and even from herself. But through embracing her vulnerability, she had slowly but surely emerged into the light. Each tear shed, each fear confronted, each act of courage, no matter how small, had chipped away at the walls she had built around her heart, allowing the light to seep in. And as the sun continued its ascent, bathing the world in its warm glow, Alara knew that the dawn wasn't just something she witnessed in the sky each morning. It was a force that resided within her, a constant reminder of her own strength and resilience. She carried the lessons learned from her grandmother, from Maeve, from Silas, and from her own experiences close to her heart, a compass guiding her steps as she navigated the uncharted waters of life. The fear of vulnerability, though still present at times, no longer held the same power over her. It had been replaced by a quiet confidence, a deep-seated knowing that her worthiness wasn't contingent upon perfection, but on her willingness to show up authentically, flaws and all. Alara returned to Willow Creek transformed, her heart brimming with a newfound sense of purpose. She shared her story openly and honestly, her words a beacon of hope for others struggling to break free from the shackles of their own fear. She knew that her journey wasn't unique, that everyone carried within them the potential for both incredible strength and profound vulnerability. And as she shared her story, she encouraged others to embrace their own vulnerabilities, to see them not as weaknesses to be hidden, but as threads in the rich tapestry of their being. For it was in those seemingly fragile threads, those raw and exposed parts of ourselves, that our true strength, our capacity for love, connection, and resilience resided. Alara's journey taught her that vulnerability wasn't a destination, but a lifelong journey of self-discovery, a continuous unfolding of the heart. It was a journey paved with both joy and sorrow, with moments of profound courage and times when fear threatened to derail her progress. But through it all, she learned to meet herself with compassion, to extend grace to her imperfections, and to celebrate the messy, beautiful unfolding of her authentic self. And in doing so, she discovered a strength she never knew she possessed, a strength that empowered her to live a life of purpose, connection, and unwavering authenticity.